I will go ahead and call this meeting to order at 1 p.m. And let's do a round of introductions. Rick, do you want to go first?
Rick Gregory, County Assistant County Administrator.
Easy there.
Yeah, I know.
Rachel.
And so much more.
Rachel McEnany, County Administrator.
Pat Malone, Commissioner.
Nancy Wise, Commissioner and Chair.
Gabe Shepherd, Commissioner.
Jeff Van Arsdale, Benton County Sheriff. Ryan Johnson, District Attorney.
Jamie Olson, Juvenile Admin Specialist.
Derek Herring, Supervisor, Juvenile Department.
Very good. Welcome, everyone. So first up on the agenda, approval of the minutes for April 17th, 2025. Do I hear any changes or a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. And next up, we have the Juvenile Department.
Okay, well, I'll kick off. Derek and I will probably double team this a little bit. And so in your packet, provided you a quick memo overview of kind of where things stand with the juvenile department. I'll start with just some quick staffing and budget update information. First, I think as all three of you know, and the rest of the group, Matt Weatherall resigned his position as the Juvenile Services Director on June 17th and took a limited duration position with the Public Works Department. And so currently right now, Derek has done a great job of stepping in and really taking all of the operational components, as I like to say, and really being the direct supervisor for all systems. I do my best to try to help in terms of just really more come from administrator leadership component and continuing to move things along. I think at this point, we're just evaluating on exactly our next steps. Where we want to go with the director's position, but right now, I think we're just really trying to get the department a little more stabilized. District Attorney Jocelyn has been very helpful to come over and visit with the staff. Thank you again for doing that and really trying to create some more partnerships and communication. At some point, I want to talk to the sheriff a little bit about maybe coming to visit at some point or having some of his staff visit as well on how we just keep those partnerships going forward. So that's kind of where we stand as it relates to the leadership component. I think also, as you know, in the 25-27 budget, there was a FTE reduction in the juvenile department. You might also remember that was a position that was filled. We had talked to you about working ahead and making sure that that person was placed within the county. We did successfully do that as of July 1st. Claire Talif, is that how I say that? Talif was transferred to our health division in the behavioral health. So she was our QMHA position, and we had decided to make some changes, and that position, though, again, has been placed specifically there. So, so that's ultimately what we had planned to ensure happen, and that we avoided any kind of layoffs. As of the first, there are 12 positions that are full-time. Right now, we have 2 vacancies. So the director's position, and we also have a position that is classified as a management position, but as part of the budget, we are looking at that as a navigator position. I will say that Derek and I really want to take some time and reevaluate the restructure that was part of the budget proposal. Not that we're saying that will change, but we want to just make sure that there's that opportunity to see if there's any adjustments that are necessary. And if so, of course, we bring those back to the Board of Commissioners. And then finally, just a quick budget update since we're at the end of the well, we're past the end of the binding, but we're doing the closeouts. The juvenile department was successful in its 23-25 budget and came in about 94% of the budget expenditures, so about a $279,000. I know this is an official county word. I always like to say a reversion to the general fund, but basically a savings to the general fund. So great work on the juvenile department over 23-25 and managing both vacancy savings as well as staying within the budget boundaries. So with that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Derek. He's going to talk a little bit about some of the case and referral statistics that I know that Matt has provided in the past and some of the dashboard information as well. Some of the things that are going on in our various programs of juvenile services.
Okay, thank you, Rick. And I also wanted to express our appreciation for your support, Rick, during this transition time. Much appreciated. There's been a lot of moving parts, and I think all things considered, things are going pretty well. So, in an attempt to save a little bit of time, I'm not going to read through this verbatim. I just want to give a little bit of a snapshot, but there is information in front of you. Generally speaking, I think that our caseloads are trending downward. That always comes and goes for various reasons. And like I said on that, I think that it's probably, you might not have it in front of you, and if you don't, I apologize.
It was in the
It was
invitation.
added earlier. Okay. So currently we have 66 youth under supervision at the juvenile department. In looking at previous years, that's down 6 or 7% each consecutive year, all the way back to, I believe, 2018, with the exception of 1 year in there. And I believe that COVID had something to do with some of that. I believe, just by memory, that was 2021 when things started reopening, things started going through the courts a little bit more. So aside from that, we've seen a decline in cases. Again, a lot of circumstances and dynamics around that, but that has given us an opportunity as a juvenile department to look at other areas that we could focus on. We've been trying to do a lot of prevention work, doing a lot of groups in schools, a lot of just programming in general. We have some activities planned for this summer that we haven't normally done. Some of those are going to be including a beach cleanup day. We have staff who are interested in doing some hikes and maybe blending that with some work crew opportunities. Just kind of a little bit outside the box programming. Like I said, we're going to try to pick up groups. I'm sorry, hiccup there for a second. Groups within schools. We'd like to do quite a bit more of those in the upcoming school year. We found that that's been pretty successful, and it's not limited to just the youth that are referred to our department. So it's really an expansion of services that will help provide for the county as a whole, not just the 5 to 7% that join us through referrals. So like I said, we're doing some summer activities. I know that there's been a lot of ideas about utilizing Oregon State University as far as the Memorial Union, taking kids there and doing some pro-social activities. There's been talk about the public pool. And of course, that's going to have a lot of safeguards and everything around all of these. So yeah, that's kind of a snapshot of the activities and the programming that's kind of on pause right now, especially with the school groups. But again, those are going to pick up, and we really want to focus on some of that preventative effort. A quick update about the work crew program. Our work crew coordinator, Dan Rogers, has continued to do a lot of work in the community. He has developed and maintained some really great working relationships with not only other county departments, but community partners, as far as work with the Flint Fire Department, the Girl Scout camp. I don't remember where that's at, up by
Outside of
Kings Valley.
Mhm.
A lot of cleanup. Their crews have been doing a lot of trail cleanup, a lot of landscaping around the area. And most currently, they've been working a lot on preparing for the fair coming up. So he just sent yeah, you got that one too, right?
Yeah.
They actually did, what is that called? Basically the fence covering that historically has cost quite a bit to get that done, to the tune of around
Millions of dollars is what we're hearing. So they went out and it looks so professional.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, so he's doing a lot of that kind of thing. He's really gotten the firewood program up and going. We're still trying to figure out the logistics around how to get that firewood out to those in the community who would need it the most. But he has several cords that is seasoned, dried, ready to go. At this point, we're not looking at a revenue stream coming from that, but at some point we would like to see that just enough for revenue to come in to kind of substantiate the program. We're certainly not looking to profit. We're not looking to do anything like that, but we really want that to get back to the community. So that's up and running. I feel like I'm missing something about the work crew program. I don't recall, but anyway, great program. It's running really well. I think that there's been a lot of really good reception from those who he's working with, and a lot of good partnerships that I could imagine will continue to move forward.
Do those that are doing the work crew, that's as a part of their sentence or the disposition agreement and or informal accountability agreement?
Yeah, yes, that it's part of the, it's part of the accountability. It counts toward those hours. And at some point, we would really like to explore the idea that possibly those that owe restitution, that would be part of the revenue that comes back in at a prorated, and we haven't figured this out yet. And I believe Marion County does it this way, where they earn the money from the firewood and that goes into paying off some restitution. That's sometime down the road, but we're hopeful for things like that. Talked about group facilitation briefly. Going into the next school year, we're hoping to have staff in several local area schools as part of support and just presence in general. We know that neighboring counties have done this and have had really, really good successes with that, not only to support the schools, but also to be a positive contact for the students. And again, not just the students that are on supervision, but those who just would like to see a positive adult. So we're going to be coordinating that with schools. We've already had a lot of interest in some of the schools. And it's not something that we've traditionally done a lot of, but we're hopeful to be more present. I think
Would you have somebody there for like an hour out of the school day or there all day long, or what's
a
the?
couple hours at a time, maybe once or twice a week. Yeah. And not necessarily for a very structured office hours, but just to be a resource. Yeah.
That's done in the past. It's new.
We've done it on a limited basis. We've had a couple staff a few different times in the Philomath High School, and it's gone really well as far as, if students wanted to check in with someone and maybe counselors were unavailable or someone that's just completely disconnected from the school. Sometimes students feel a little bit safer in sharing in that capacity. And we make it very clear that when our staff are going into schools, we're not probation officers. We're not authority. We're other adults in the school. And even when we do group facilitation, the IDs come off. And while we're representing the juvenile department, we don't want that to be what people think of.
This is something you've worked out 509J too.
We're in the process of doing that. We've sent out some feelers and some discussions with the local schools. Once we have a little bit more traction, that will certainly be covered on the bigger picture of things.
Yes, Commissioner, I was just gonna say that, as Derek's talking a little about the caseloads and what we've seen, and one of the things learning is that as Derek said, there's this notion of the juvenile department being, no offense, Sheriff, but more of a law enforcement type group that comes in. And so there seems to be this lack of perhaps wanting to partner as closely, just because of the fear that comes with that. And so trying to move it more towards the proactive and going to them, meeting them where they're at, and working with the schools. I think that's been a big part of, I know what Matt wanted to be able to do and be on the front end of it. I think as time goes along, we want to create those relationships, probably stronger relationships with the schools and our partner organizations as well.
Yeah, the sense I've gotten over the past few years seems to me like 509J is sort of going away from wanting to partner for whatever reason based on their values or how they want to handle stuff. So I hope that this works out, and it's a great idea, I think.
The school districts, and we had discussed this at the meeting and the juvenile department had, but there was up until, I don't know how long ago, but there was a resource officer from Corvallis Police Department that would be a presence at the different schools. And I understand at some point they asked that discontinue. Would have been a different role anyways, but kind of along the same lines of what you're seeing. I would like to see, and I'm going to reach out to the superintendent to get his thoughts on that, but I would like to see a resource officer back in there. They weren't just law enforcement, enforcing law. They were building relationships as well, I think, so.
I mean, I heard, members of the school board go as far as to say that, having a resource officer in the school could be triggering to some students, which may be the case, but also my opinion is that it's also a chance for them to see them in a different light
Right.
and how they can be helpful but
Yeah.
not the school board, so.
Well, and I can just add as well, like my office, we have deputies assigned to all the county schools and we don't have anybody at the Corvallis schools. Now with that, I don't want to get anybody in a lot of trouble, but the principal at Crescent Valley has been easy to work with. And so we do some stuff. We are present up at Crescent Valley and Mountain View. But we're at Santiam, we're Monroe, we hit Philomath, but Philomath has Philomath covered. So we don't have to go there as much. We go out to Kings Valley, we go out to LC. That's one of the questions I was going to ask here is when I get up. But yeah, we have deputies assigned to all the schools. So
You guys have done whole days at Muddy Creek, I know.
yeah. That's where somebody told anyway, doesn't it? Somebody got on Toby.
Yeah, we're trying, as has been mentioned before, we're just trying to continue those connections and there have been some dynamic changes locally with law enforcement, schools, ourselves, and I don't know that there's a specific reason or circumstance, but ultimately we want to be able to work well together. And I believe that later on in a couple months, I'll be speaking with the superintendent and discussing those as well. So beyond that, I don't know that we have anything to add. I think that that's kind of where we're at in a nutshell right now.
Comments?
Commissioner Wise, I might just say, and having the opportunity to work with juvenile over the last couple of months, it's always kind of a opportunity, when you don't always see the day-to-day services and be able to hear the stories. And I've just been impressed with a lot of the meetings I've been at and how they get very engaged in all the different types of personalities that they run across. But it's clear to see that there's a real passion for the work that goes on, and sometimes you don't see it. It kind of feels like it's a little hidden at times, and so just lots of kudos to the group, and they've obviously been through some changes and some transitions, but they're really coming together. Lots of kudos to Jamie, who's here, who's done an incredible job on the administrative. So just wanted to pass on my appreciation for all of their work and continue to forge forward during a challenging time.
How many years have you been without a school resource officer?
Since, 2020, I believe is when they got rid of the SRO program.
And did we
Corvallis
find-
had one for 25 years and then it went away.
So going back before that, was that pretty much the big movement and less cases referred? Do you think more came from the schools or is?
I think that we've seen a change in the referrals coming from schools, and I wouldn't want to speculate why that is. I have my own thoughts about the correlation between referrals and being in the schools. But that could be completely inaccurate. That could be just fabricating my own mind. But I think that there's been this shift away from having law enforcement in the schools. I think that the schools in general, and I don't know that it's just local here, but I think that schools are taking it upon themselves to handle things more internally these days instead of call on law enforcement. And of course, we don't get involved without a referral, without a citation. And so it kind of leaves a challenging spot for us because there's incidents at schools, we all know that. And sometimes we get a call because they need some support or assistance. We'd be happy to do that. But again, our access is limited to those referrals. And so again, if we can build some relationships and maybe do some educational, just some education around our role, our abilities to provide services, and the reasons that we say, if there's an incident, please call law enforcement if you feel like it raises to that level. So yeah, I think in part, going back to what you'd asked, I think in part there is a correlation between school, law enforcement, or resource officers and the referrals that we're getting, at least in part.
I think COVID, it kind of dove down a little bit too. It necessarily came all the way back prior. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, I think that that's right.
Derek, at least in part, is decline in caseload, paralleling decline in enrollment, at least the 509J and quite up on other school districts out there. I think Florida is down, and then Albany is just trending down. Is there a mention there?
I think it'd be interesting to look at that a little bit more. I don't have the answer to that. It wouldn't surprise me if there is a correlation there. I also know that cases are trending statewide. I'm in a couple groups with directors and supervisors in the region, and it seems like a lot of them are experiencing the same decline in cases. And so it could be enrollment, it could be a few different reasons. I'm not sure. But again, when we're seeing this, I mean, of course, we'd love to see less cases, but then what does that give us the ability to do on the other side as far as prevention, more community work and things like that?
Less cases is kind of a 5-year trend, or I mean, COVID kind of skews things. This isn't just a year or two. This is 4 or 5 years trending down.
That's what I saw in some of the statistics that I pulled for a statewide plan that I'm working on right now. It looks like, yes, there's been a gradual decline. Yeah. And that could uptick. I mean, those trends, they kind of go up and down as far as juvenile cases. So it'll be interesting to see what the next few years looks like. If there's going to be another uptick or if it's going to continue to go down, what that looks like, we're not really sure yet.
A few years back, I remember, seemed like there were 9 cases. In that range.
Mhm.
I wonder, I speculate, and you would probably have to look at the numbers, but how much of that had to do with Measure 110, the decriminalization of the lower levels of drugs? Now, of course, it's changed back, but there might be a while to change back up. So that could have something to do with it.
Yeah, I would agree.
Other questions? Great. Well, in that case, we can move along to Sheriff's Office.
Appreciate it. Thank you for being here. I appreciate something to kind of come in here, and brag about the office a little bit. I turned in 3 reports for April, May, and June to you. If you have those in front of you, you can pull them up. If you have any questions, you can reference those and hit me up. I'm gonna hit some of the highlights of them. In April, and I know that I've got some stuff here from when Under Sheriff Rogers was able to come and present in my place last time. We did have the DUI Enforcement Agency of the Year, the DUI Enforcement Officer of the Year, and Deputy Ash. And then Deputy Sparks and Deputy Frick both attended the Oregon State Sheriff Association week-long Deputy Sheriff's Academy. That's a pretty good opportunity to go work with side by side with just a bunch of other deputies. And it's a great networking opportunity as well for the whole week. You learn stuff that isn't necessarily specific to your region, your area. You learn how to kind of do it, and it'll come into play a little bit later when I talk about the incident management team. I don't know that there's really anything else to hit on this unless you guys have questions specific to the month of April.
What's a transferred concealed handgun license?
So if I were to go to Curry County, move to Curry County, I can no longer have it. I don't have an address here, so I can't have a concealed handgun license here. So I transferred into Curry County and I would go through their process
Okay.
of handgun license.
Could you give me like a hypothetical situation why a license was revoked?
An arrest.
Okay.
So you get, once you issue your license, you issue, state board is a shall issue. So I very rarely deny people a concealed handgun license. But once you get arrested and we find out about it, and I know this shocks a lot of people, we all talk. And so they'll send forward the report to us as soon as they run them. So the record staff will run them, see they have a concealed handgun license. So then they'll forward that report on to the issuing agency, which would be us.
Okay.
Once Katie Kuhner gets that, then she'll write a denial letter. It's pretty much a form letter. I'll sign it and we revoke their handgun license. And so,
Okay.
or deny it. I deny some permits typically, if the denial portion. They'll have an arrest in their background. And a lot of folks are going through the process of getting their records expunged. And so then I'll see their name and it'll be a denial. And then 4 months later, it'll come through and there'll be no criminal history. And so then I approve it. So it doesn't exist any longer.
Sure.
Yeah.
And if you deny it, they can appeal it to the.
They can appeal it. So typically if I'm gonna deny it for something kind of questionable, I'll make sure that county council Crony knows. Because Vance is the one who then has to go and present the case in front of the circuit court judge. And we've had pretty good, because I just don't deny too many, but when I do, it's for a justified reason. And I'll outline that to Vance and he'll document that, give it to the judge. The judge will see that, give the individual an opportunity. But typically it's for a valid reason.
And there is an increase.
Yeah, there's an increase. I mean, you can see the numbers here. There was like 93 in April, issued, 103 were issued in May. And then there was some training and some other stuff in June, so there's only 59. I mean, we're seeing quite a few. I mean, there's 100 at least every month that come across the desk. And we recently went to Promidium, and so it's an online way of doing your CHL as opposed to the old school way. You fill out the paperwork, you'd have to print it off, sign it, bring it in, get a picture, fingerprints. Now with Promidium, you can do it almost all online. You don't have to come into the office. So I wanted to be a little bit more convenient for folks because coming to the sheriff's office sometimes can be a struggle. You got to try to find a place to park and do some things, and it's
Right door.
correct. It's a bit of a I call it the battleship. So you got to know which door to hit in the battleship. So. Any other questions on April? Cuckoo. All right, May. May was a busy month. I had the opportunity to swear in Deputy Alyssa Doty, sworn Daniel Ball had been promoted to sergeant last year, but due to some other events, he was never officially sworn in. I was able to swear him in as a sergeant. Deputy Dylan Gassner and Deputy Jackson Rzuski, I was able to swear the two of them in at the jail. And then Deputy Sean Chesbrough was sworn in as reserve and unlimited duty, but it looks like he's going to be going to Springfield full time here in the next little bit. And then we were able to hire Shelby Moody, who is a current reserve, to start doing our background and be a background investigator for us. And then several divisions attended the state conference. And then Captain Duffett worked all month long with the district attorney's office as they prosecuted a homicide. Again, they came back. Let's see here. I don't think there's anything
Doty
else.
from CPD.
Yes,
Correct.
yeah, Alyssa, she's already solo. She's great. We got a pretty good find there. And then her partner works in dispatch. And so it's a tag team effort.
Why does Shelby Moody sound familiar?
She's a reserve and she's been with the office. It's Ryan Moody's daughter-in-law. Ryan Moody's the sheriff in Wallowa County and was a sergeant with our office. So. Any questions on May? No, there's a small one. And then June was highlighted with the retirement of Captain Justin Carley from our parole and probation division. I gave 31 years of service, and that was pretty impressive. Not on here because it's not part of the city, but Heidi Ferguson, formerly Heidi Peters, who was a dispatcher with Corvallis Regional, also retired with 30 years of service in. And both of those were pretty big days and pretty meaningful for me to have an opportunity to say goodbye the way we did. You'll notice in the June report, this will be the last month we do FTA stats. We learned that the courts will be now doing all the FTA stuff. And so we are out of the business of having to do FTAs. We'll see how that goes. Just leave it at that.
Will they be reporting to us?
No idea. I have no idea what TCA Westfall's plan is with that. I just know that they are going to take it over.
Is this their decision or?
This was OJD. OJD.
Okay.
Yeah, it came from the state.
It's a statewide
thing? Correct.
Okay.
Because my guys were enjoying it.
Yeah.
They like doing some of this, but it's given us an opportunity because we've established ourselves with some pretrial stuff already. So we've been working closely with Lincoln County, so they're gonna be able to kind of switch gears and start doing things a little differently now anyway. So it's good. I mean, I don't know that it's gonna necessarily translate into less FTAs,
Yeah.
but it's gonna allow my deputies that are in that pretrial to actually do some pretrial stuff, reach out, do some follow-ups, do some look-ins, and do things a little bit differently. So it will evolve. And I'm not happy about it, but we'll evolve and it'll in the end, I hope be good.
Yeah, I don't want us to lose track of those because that's been a huge
Important.
important statistic for us as we're talking about the need, our facilities needs. And I don't want them to be artificially lowered because someone's not keeping track of them in the same manner.
Well, and then in 21, when I was appointed, the FTA was like 33%.
Mhm.
And now we're right around 11 to 14% about every month. And then I have to believe it's because of the staff that we have in the pretrial who enter the information, make sure Audubon does the follows, make sure they're sending emails. I feel like, well, we'll see what happens. But I concur with you. I don't want to see the numbers. I am concerned.
Just still, so it's much better than it was.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Still very high compared to other counties, I believe.
I have to believe it's probably still, it's probably a little bit more normal rate, but it's still probably a little high.
Okay.
Just because we don't have the facilities to. Now with that, you know, when you put somebody in the facility, there's some ramifications with the state as well. And that's like a last chance deal like that when you start giving people, sanctioning people days. So it just doesn't have why.
I had jury duty a couple weeks ago and the defendant didn't show, so I gotta go early, so. Yeah.
Sheriff, on the improving failure to appear, any couple of reasons why we're doing better?
Well, like I mentioned, to begin with, I feel like the deputies were doing some follow-up and reminding people when their courts are. And so they were, I mean, otherwise you just kind of, if you don't have access to certain things, you don't remember, you don't recall, you get on with life. And so now we're able to meet them kind of where they're at and let them know when and where and what time. And so I think that helps. And then again, with, you know, we work pretty closely with the district attorney's office and with the courts and the judges specifically. And so they will put, well, I don't know what the right term is here, but we have people on ankle monitors. I mean, we are working closely with the community to try to do better because we know the facility is not going to be the answer. Typically with Senate Bill 48, if people are brought into the facility on an FTA warrant, they're held. If they come to the door, we can remind them of the court dates and we won't bring them into the facility that way sometimes. And so we've got a better relationship with certain folks now in certain part of the population. Then they don't necessarily look at us with that fearful, I'm going to run, right? So those are some options or observations I've made, but I couldn't tell you for certain why the number's lower.
Yeah, or I was gonna say a fair amount of the folks we deal with on a regular basis are not, you know, traditionally housed. They probably have a smartphone, but they're not living on the normal 9 to 5 schedule that, you know, most of us are. So, you know, they're not keeping a calendar. So that reminder, hey, tomorrow or today, you've got a hearing. That's gonna show some improvement would be my guess.
And I think they're going a week out, 3 days out, and then the day before as notifications.
I think it was Senate Bill 48, I was talking about under Sheriff Rogers, and that was part of the reason that Clatsop County's jail population went down significantly, opened up opportunity for us.
Correct.
But well, for Benton County, our effect was the opposite. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, I think under Senate Bill 48, you have to see have category 1, 2, and 3, and only category 3 are typically the ones that stay. Category 2 can stay if I were to call the judge and ask for an override, but I've only done that, I think, a couple of times. As far as why I believe that is, like I was saying, if you fail to appear, will turn themselves in. And so we can bring them into the facility and then they can go see a judge at 1:30 the next day, unless it's early in the morning, then they can go 1:30 that day. So that's why we'll see those numbers kind of stay up where they're at. I don't know if you're familiar with where Clatsop County's jail is, but it's in Warrenton. It's a little bit off the beaten path. So I don't have people doing turn-ins there. So that's just a part of it, but yeah, in the olden days, you take somebody to jail, you took them to jail and then they'd stay till 1:20 and go see a judge. And then that's not the case anymore. But like you were saying, in our county, those numbers seem to have kind of just stayed the same. And that's just one because, you know, it's a product of our smaller facility. And then two, instead of shipping people out, we can have them stay here.
It's extradition training.
Extradition. So if say we have somebody that we pick up and they have a warrant out of Colorado, we can either take them to Colorado, or if we have somebody in Colorado, we can go get them. And so the extradition, there can be paperwork, there can be court hearings, and then there can be actual travel time. And so the training it's pretty useful, beneficial to our transport deputies.
Thank you. Questions?
I have some in general. Are we good for the,
I think June's good. Yeah, we're good.
okay. Marine Patrol, how's it going? We're in the middle of summer, river use, and with the budget cuts, you said we'd probably be okay. From the Marine Board budget cuts. I just want to check in about that.
So we're in great shape. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you ever get an opportunity to thank anybody, thank the Marine deputies. They saved a couple more lives last week. They were out cutting a snag, which anyway, they were cutting a snag and they could hear some noise, and up the river a little bit was another snag, and some tubers had been sucked underneath the snag. So they will get up there and save them and get them out of the water. And I know this is a recorded meeting. I asked them, but I'll be giving one of the deputies an award tomorrow at briefing. Well, just because of his efforts in that, he did great. Yeah, I think it was you, Commissioner Chair Wise, Roger Nyquist sent the text, or Will Tucker.
Yeah.
No, not Roger, Will sent that email and asked us to do some stuff down.
Yeah.
It's not our county, but we of course went down there and did it anyway, and he was pretty thankful. I know they had something recently up in Polk County, and Polk County returned their Marine deputies because their money in their boats and everything.
Yeah.
They're just like, no, we're not in the business if you can't pay us. I just feel like we have a fundamental obligation, and so we utilize reserves. I didn't fill one of my temp positions that we normally fill. I've got enough folks that have gone through the Marine Deputy School that we can utilize on-duty staff, because right now we're fully staffed.
Mhm.
So I can utilize on-duty staff, and then like what we used to do in Baker's, we would do a lot of shore patrol. And so we've got a lot of folks doing shore patrol stuff as well. They'll go to Crystal Lake and they can do a lot of burrs and stuff on shore right there, as opposed to putting a boat in the water. So.
And I think I mentioned this to you, but I'll say it for the public meeting. The mayor of Corvallis ran into some sheriff deputies while at one of the Riverside parks, and they were doing a great job, and he had a lot of compliments to say about the safety. They're talking to people about safety and doing a good job. So
That's good. I appreciate that. Thank you. That's always good feedback to get.
So Polk County isn't doing Marine Patrol?
Correct. Marion County has picked up their stretch of the Willamette.
That's what I was, okay. That's helpful.
Does Marion County get more money for that?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Sheriff Hunter and I are cut from the same cloth. We just believe that philosophically there should be somebody there to help and take care. So, yeah.
The other question I had to do with the where is it? Jail closures.
Mhm.
So when you have, so it says there were, what month am I in? I'm in June. It says there were 3 days when the morning count noted all holding cells were occupied,
Mhm.
was that capacity. So what that means is that, and it says 0 jail closures. So you were at capacity but never went over. Is that right? Okay, so that's what that means.
And what that involves is our 2 holding and 2 waiting cells. We had somebody up, we brought people in, or there's somebody under the influence or having behavioral health or whatever it might be. Whatever that issue is, we've had to put them in a single cell up front where they get 15-minute observations.
Yes.
So if those cells are occupied, then we don't have anywhere to put somebody. And so then at that point we would close.
Okay, so then that was it looked like there were 0 closures, but 5 days over the course of these last 3 months where it was pretty close, where they were at capacity. Okay, thank you.
And when our judges are making release decisions in court on a daily basis, they're turning to the deputies and asking, what's the status or thing. And when the answer is they're full or there's 1 bed, the judge is often making a decision to release the person with a stern talking to rather than putting them in jail just because of the lack of space.
So it isn't a statistic in a vacuum. It's a observed statistic, and decisions are made off of that on a constant basis. So it's, frankly, it doesn't sound like it's the most reliable statistic because people are trying to avoid having it go over.
Right, so typically I get a report every day that looks like this to start my day. And you'll see that those three, the one waiting or two waiting, one holding is vacant.
Mhm.
And so we have room for folks if they want to come into the facility. And so that information is then shared with the courts as well. So they know how many beds we have. So this is today. So that's how many people are requesting the facility. You have that many folks at the state hospital, that many at Polk. It's always going to be 10. I promise the commissioners that I always have 10. And then we have 4, it says 4 at Norport, but it's not Norport any longer.
Yeah.
It's now Plaza. So I mean, and that's a bed by bed instead of a contract bed. And so we've already saved a significant amount of money.
Okay,
according to
yeah.
Plaza.
And on the release situation, some situations based on the facts, they're mandatory that the court holds them.
Yeah.
Discretionary.
The class of, that started July 1,
July 1.
and we've got 4 folks there right now, we
I
said.
believe that's right, yes.
Okay.
And to keep that in perspective, we have 4 there today. But if they were at Norport, we would still be paying for the 15
For all beds.
for that contract. And so we're now paying for 4. So we pay a little bit more per bed, but we don't pay that big contract, so.
Saving on gas.
We're
And
saving, we're saving in every direction, which once we get the new courthouse up and running, will make a big difference.
I'm excited for our tour. Our road trip.
You will be surprised. I'm gonna tell you, it's a big facility,
Yeah, okay.
big facility.
Field trip coming up.
A week from
August 31st. Thursday's 31st.
Thursday.
baseball or softball.
Softball's on the 30th.
Stockholm's on the 30th. Battle of the Bands is that night, so if we get back in time, we can do Battle of the Bands.
August, July.
July 31st.
July, end of the month, next week.
Sweet.
So I wanted to touch a little bit, I looked at Under Sheriff Rogers, the stuff he talked about last month or last time we all met. We are now fully staffed, as you all know, I've touted that as much as I can. We still are looking for qualified reserves and qualified limited duties in the jail for a few more days. But right now I am fully staffed. Let's see here. Talked about Brian Lee and his work with emergency management. I can't talk about Brian Lee enough. Right now, we have an IMT, which is an interagency management team and so we have an IMT in the patrol division that I was part of after the Malheur occupation. And then we just kind of stopped because we didn't really have anything. Then we had some fires, the Sandium Canyon fires. And so I sent some deputies over to the Deschutes side. Brian Lee has fired up this IMT or incident management team for emergency operations. And now we put them in touch with the patrol side, and Brian and the patrol, I am the ECC commander, Enforcement Command, have started working together. He went to Harney County. Brian's been to some training in Maryland now. And so he's been requested in North Carolina, Florida, some places, and I always tell him no. But eventually I'm going to say, yes, go. I want you to go and get this experience. So it's just something to think about. Our incident management team, our emergency manager, Brian, Chelsea Chitka, they're amazing. And I just can't sing their praise enough. Brian's a gifted dude. And I just want to put that out there just because I saw that on last time's deal.
I've got a Brian question.
Mhm.
This morning, we received several emails from Chinook,
Road district.
Road District, saying yesterday mail truck crashed into a telephone pole and the road was closed, and yet we would like the county to look into the second route for their area. And I've talked to Brian in the past about when we were doing the sheep farm and taking care of Oak Creek or helping. We have a number of other areas that could use an evacuation route. And he was working on a kind of a matrix of, how many people, what would it cost? So end up with, well, what's the next, when funding's available, what's the next area that could use an evacuation route. Just, curious what kind of shape that list is in.
Well, I think it's not a surprise to anybody when you start talking about funding and the federal government and FEMA, there's no money currently. So I wouldn't get too wrapped around the axles about it yet, but I can certainly ask him about that. It's the first I'd heard of that new route or a previous route that had been discussed, at least it's the first I've heard of it, so.
Well, this was just to look at different areas and prioritize them. We did have some funding that took care of the sheep farm evacuation route, Skyline,
Right.
the Skyline area. But part of that was, that's a well-organized group and I think 400 homes, and so it was a fairly easy one to put at the top of the list. Legislature came up with funding.
That's our Gals are Blue, and I think it was,
And there were 3 or 4 funding streams to get that project
Right.
finished, but even if there's not currently not funding available, just having some kind of priority list so we can tell people really not likely or in the near to medium future, there's a possibility.
Well, no, I can certainly catch up with Brian and just ask him, I mean, what are the possibilities? I know, I made some notes here, so I'll certainly find out and I can get back to you on that.
yeah, you could ask him to send us whatever is appropriate he has.
Okay.
That will help me responding to the 6 or 7. Because we got that may say, yeah, we're aware of it, or no, we're not, we'll add it to the list.
I know that there was a hot wire and it took a little while to get CPI and I don't know why that was, other than you probably have to just get somebody on the weekend.
Out
It's a
there
little bit
visiting,
easy.
yeah, right now.
Little challenge. All right, maybe we talked about budget stuff, just as an aside, I know Rick was talking about a reversion to the general fund. I wrote that down, don't get yourself. I wasn't.
No, it's in my statement.
As of the end of May, we still had a $550,000 roughly in our budget. So I can't imagine it was, I mean, I made some purchases, but I didn't purchase the piece of armor I was looking at. So there's no piece of armor coming. So we were looking at trying to replace the bank vault truck because it's a 2-wheel drive that likes to get stuck, but that not a thing this time around. And then lastly, let's see here, Seafood and Wine Festival. So I wanted to just touch on this real quick. So it started out as the DUI side, it was the Interagency Impaired Driving Task Force, and it is now called the Benton County Regional Traffic Team. So the first coin they did was for a back to school deal event. Oh, no, it's graduation. That was graduation. And then this is for the Seafood and Wine Festival. And I'll just pass these around so you guys can take a look. And now this is the newest one, Benton Regional, and this one's actually pretty cool. This one's
There's a lot of drugs on that.
and this one's really cool. And I want to add, I have a letter here that I received from Sergeant Bowers with Philomath. And I think Blake is kind of one of the leads on it, along with Brittany Hughes, who's an officer with Corvallis. And then, of course, we have several deputies involved, but it seems like a Deputy Kyle Tomney, Colin Tomney has really kind of taken the lead as well. But from the frolic, some of the stats I have here, nearly 140 traffic stops, 21 traffic related citations. They did field sobriety on 11 people. They made 4 DUI arrests, and they had 3 people they arrested on warrants as well. And this involves Benton County, Philomath, Corvallis, OSU Police Department, Albany Police Department, and the state police as well. And I know this last weekend, Albany Police had reached out and asked if we could help with some stuff for the Lynn County Fair. And I haven't heard back or seen any of the numbers on that one yet. But I just want to let you know that that's going on, and it is truly an interagency deal, and it is with Philomath, I think, kind of has the lead on it. And I'm pretty excited about it, and I'm supportive of it, and we give them a little bit of money so they can help buy the coins and some swag and stuff. for the folks that participate.
It's definitely some
It's pretty cool.
folks that call like.
Right?
I did.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I did like the messaging at the front, like, don't let this be your last ride. I thought that was.
Right.
That was a good one. And I don't remember who, but someone commented on it to me as I was in.
Well, and I know that we've been also partnering and doing some things with the health department. And I would love to say that we came up with that, but I believe it was the health department that came up with that. And it's pretty catchy, and I like it a lot, right?
Well, they had signs about, you know, what binge drinking is and what,
Right.
as you're driving out, like, okay.
Right. I like it. And I guess as I hear the DA comment, we also have representatives from the district attorney's office. I totally forgot about that. I apologize. I totally forgot.
Well, did you know that the Benton County, the horsey people? They had a donkey riding team.
Yeah, no.
So.
They said Benton County and we were like, what?
I was like, who's claiming to be Benton County?
She said the horsey people, and this is a public meeting.
Horsey, posse,
All right.
it's close, okay?
I think they need to know this.
Moving on. This week is National Parole and Probation Week. So if you have an opportunity to drop a letter in, like I was saying, that Captain Carly has retired. Joel Pickard is the acting captain of the division currently. And they're running pretty bare bones over there right now. The other sergeant recently had an incident that requires him to be off duty and have some surgery and do some things. And then we already had 3 openings. And
What's
so
the department
parole and probation.
again? Yeah.
PMP. Let's see here, the 30th, you already mentioned, is a cherry softball game versus Lynn County Sheriff's Office for Forno. And it benefits the ABC House.
Yeah.
September 7th will be the chili cook-off, and that is a Sunday. And then August 6th, I'm bouncing around here, August 6th, we have National Night Out, and we will have the posse at Philomath along with a marine boat and in Philomath's National Night Out at the park there. And then we'll also be in a dare with a marine boat as well and hand out some swag. Last year at a dare, I made the mistake of handing out boat whistles, and I will never make that mistake again. Well, a lot of them, yeah, it was really noisy. We had to do a reset, hard reset. And then September.
Had children.
Well, I will tell you, okay, so at the Monroe Christmas parade, we ran out of candy, so I started giving out boat whistles, and I'd give a toot toot, and behind me, you could just hear these kids toot. toot. And I'm like, oh, there's more behind me, right? So it was all right. And then September 2nd will be our first night of Citizens Academy. If you know anybody who would benefit from participating in our Citizens Academy, have them fill out an application. They can go online to the sheriff's office webpage and get involved with the Citizens Academy. It's pretty cool opportunity to
September 2nd?
September 2nd. Is the
Open
first.
to commissioners, right?
It's pretty cool.
We are citizens.
I'm telling you, it's pretty neat, it's pretty neat. And I know that you went through it recently. And so if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask Chair Weiss, because it's a lot of fun. And I look forward to it. And I love to tell you, it's my thing, but I've been telling you, Under Sheriff Rogers, he is geeked about it. He loves the Citizens Academy.
And what is it, 1 day a week? It's at the.
It's Tuesdays and the occasional couple Saturdays. I can't remember the schedule. I had it off the top of my head. We're every Tuesday for 8 weeks, I think. And then a couple of Saturdays in there, but they're not home football games or anything like that.
Good.
Yeah.
You ride the marine boat.
You do get to go out on the boat on a Saturday, so you go out and see the dog on the one Saturday is a cool Saturday. You see the dog, drones, boat, and forest deputies come out. It's a lot of fun, and it's not all day Saturday either. But it will feed you guys. Anyway, if you know of anybody, there you go.
I was randomly telling my kids about how I almost tripped, halfway trip getting on the boat.
Oh.
Just about gave the sheriff a heart attack.
Well, and then I apologize. Last, I just want to go over this a little bit. We are doing our awards for 2024. And we wanted to do this early in the year. And of course, here we are halfway through the year and we're still trying to get through it. But I do have some of them here. So we did support services, emergency services, and special services. Employee of the year was Sergeant Ryan Roth. Employee of the year hasn't received the award yet, so I'm going to hold off there. Volunteer of the year was Tim Jordan. And then I gave a sheriff's award to Howard Friedman. He's a volunteer. He's got thousands and thousands of hours of volunteer time. And then I was, of course, gave a sheriff's award to Brian Lee as well. That was an easy one for me. And the jail employee of the year was Sergeant Jonathan Herrick. And then he also, Joe Yanchek, I gave Joe Yanchek its Sheriff's Award. And then we have a Joint Service Award with Herrick, Nordyke, and Blackshear, and Detective Lovick as well. And she hasn't received her award. So that stems from, we had a bad guy in the facility and he was utilizing every means possible to contact his victim to the tune of 66 counts, I believe it was. And he got 66 months on top of his sentence. And the judge gave him a month for every time he violated. And I thought that was pretty impressive. Parole and probation, we have not done yet, and patrol, we have not done yet. And so I can't get on into those yet. I did, some life-saving awards for Dylan Gassner and Paul Hernandez. They found somebody in the jail who had attempted suicide and they were able to resolve the issue. And, as such, we did not have a jail death. And I'm super happy about that.
Yeah.
So don't like those at all.
No.
There you go. Any questions?
Are you fully staffed now?
Now you sound like everybody that wants to say, they get mad at me. I'm like, oh, I'm just, it's an easy one, right? We're fully staffed, nobody else is. Till I have this vacancy rate and I'm like, oh, wow, well, there you go. You see how the coins, they're pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're lightweight, but the man's pretty neat and what it stands for. So I'm super proud of these guys. Pretty cool. Anyway.
Deputy Tomini is in trial as we speak, I believe, on a DUI case. We're trying today.
How many?
Yeah, he's tearing it up. Him and Deputy.
Other questions or comments to share?
Wait till next week to find out more about
Yeah.
that.
Well, I should tell you that Brian is out of town this week. And I'm not gonna bother him.
Oh, okay.
He's dealing with
Good to know.
some stuff, and so, of course, the hierarchy then is Chelsea, Rick, and Sarah, so,
He sent out a message to a bunch of us,
yeah.
letting us all know.
So I will.
Here's their 24-hour phone lines.
Does not surprise me,
Yeah.
yeah. And Rick Lenz, who is the emergency manager in Lynn County, is great. And his wife Monica is the emergency manager for Lane County, and she is great. So we are surrounded by a lot of really good people that can do really well for us, so. Got a great health service. So there you go.
So I mean, obviously the other commissioners can respond to those emails if you'd like, but I will respond with letting them know that we'll get back to them when we have more information, but that we received their concerns and looking into see if we're aware of it already or if it's on anyone's radar yet. Great, and with that, last but not least, Ernie.
Thank you. Things are going well at the district attorney's office. We just had our annual barbecue get together at my place, and it was a good turnout. Spirits are high, morale's high, I'd say. We are not fully staffed, but on a positive note, we are saving the county all kinds of money by keeping some positions.
It's good, but you keep those open.
Do what we can. Along those lines, we are, I think I mentioned in a previous meeting, but we have our 10th DDA position, which will be filled starting the 17th of this month. And I'll be, when I get back to my office, sending out a formal offer letter on DDA number 11. Hopefully it will be accepted, in which case we'll have, again, won't be fully staffed per se, but as many as I plan to fill, given our budget situation. So just wanted to highlight a couple things, programs you'll see on here: restorative justice, deflection, and then there's a couple other programs. But basically, in addition to the general approach to catch a person who's committed a crime, hold them accountable and convict them and sentence them with jail or prison, there's a number of creative approaches that come up from time to time to kind of deal with some of the cases on the edges, I guess. You know, we can't solve all the problems with any particular program, but you think of a drug treatment court, for example, that's something that was implemented now 50 years or better ago. And it's been a successful program to more effectively deal with people that are in the criminal justice system because of drugs and alcohol. And sometimes mental health disorders combined with those and divert them away from a long prison sentence. So there's programs that come up from time to time and we try those out as appropriate. And hopefully they're best practices and supported by, well, best practices and some history of success in other agencies, and we try them out and see how they work. And if they work well, we might expand them. If they don't work well, we do away with them. The restorative justice program is something that's kind of the latest approach to some types of cases. And I'll just say that Scott Smith, if you may be familiar with that name, he works for, or well, yeah, he works for Neighbor to Neighbor, which is a local restorative justice program. They do some work down in Lane County and some surrounding counties. And he's reached out to John Harrelson and I now about a year ago, and I've met with him multiple times, and then he's a regular attender at a Willamette Criminal Justice Council meeting, but he has been hoping that we could implement some type of restorative justice program locally. And I made the decision that we will try that out in the arena, kind of at a smaller scale, but we have something already available to us called a district attorney diversion. And what that is in certain types of cases, less serious cases, typically nonviolent cases, a person can enter that program. They plead guilty, in essence, to the crime. They admit the guilt. They're placed on a probation. They're required to do a number of things, just treatment, maybe pay restitution, some fines or some costs associated with it. But we've decided, and then if they're successful at the end of that diversion period, the case is dismissed without a conviction. So in the context of our DA diversions, we're going to try out the restorative justice program. So a term of the DA diversion would be that they enter this restorative justice program, and I'll kind of talk briefly about what that is. And then if they, again, complete the DA diversion, one term of which will be this restorative justice program, they end up with the dismissal of the charge. And Scott could, and maybe at some point the county might, or the commissioners might like to hear from him, or he'll probably have him speak, I think, at one of our upcoming WCJC meetings.
They're actually coming tomorrow to talk to us, Heather Wright and Scott
Oh,
Smith.
well, perfect. The
Yeah.
timing's great then. Yeah, so
Okay.
I'll just tease it and he can give you more detail. But in essence, I'm going to oversimplify it, but it's kind of a mediated get together between your victim and your defendant. They have different terminology. I think they call it the harmed person and the responsible party, but different labels for the same players, the defendant and victim. And in essence, they're learning what is important to the victim and how the victim feels like they could be made whole. And then there's actually a community member that comes to represent the interests of the community, because even though a community member, the community, there's not a specified victim, the community sometimes suffers as a whole when crime is committed as well. So there's somebody that represents the community, and then of course the defendant. And the idea is to reach an agreement where a plan is set up, and it might be monetary, it might be counseling, it might be literally mending a fence, whatever it takes to restore a sense of justice to the victim harmed party. And then ultimately that program would last between 6 and 9 months, basically the length of our DA diversion period. And if successful, they're going to report back to us, and ultimately we dismiss the case. If not, then it goes the normal course of things. There would ultimately, it should be a conviction with the standard type of sentence. So that we just signed an MOU, and it'll be probably a month or two before we actually roll it out. But and it'll be probably, starting on a small scale. Well, again, try it out and see how it goes.
Would that be like drug court then, where they have a sentence, but the sentence is over here Are they already going to be sentenced or will they have to go through the whole process? if they
It's in
don't?
essence an informal, so DA diversion, deflection aside, DA diversion is in essence an informal probation of sorts. So they enter a plea, but there's no sentence imposed. So there's just a document that says, here's what's going to happen. And if that, what's dictated in that agreement happens, then at the end of that 6-month period, if it's a misdemeanor, or 9-month period, if it's a felony, that the case is dismissed. And so we're kind of plugging a program within this existing DA diversion already. And they'll have 6 to 9 months to fulfill, to go through the process, reach an agreement, and then carry out the terms of that agreement. Deflection, again, another one of those programs that, and in this case, the legislature came up with this, but, and you've heard a lot about it already, so I'm not going to go into detail on the program itself, but we're at the point where officers are now handing, I should have brought one, look like business card with a QR code on them to anybody that they think might be eligible for diversion. So it's or deflection. It's the unclassified misdemeanor possession of controlled substance crimes. So these are the crimes that, were decriminalized for a brief period of time under Measure 110 and have now been recriminalized. And so they're in the process of handing those cards out and or hopefully helping people sign up for those. To get the program going, we actually took a number of cases where we had formally charged the person, but then because our program wasn't up and running, we made plea offers to resolve the case with deflection. And so there's now, I think we have about a dozen people participating in the program. Some of those are outside of the criminal justice system or just community referrals. I think maybe 6 of those are actual, charged with or cited for a crime folks. And we actually had one person formally graduate recently. So it's, a slow start. And I think, again, these are going to be, I don't think we're going to show huge numbers. Even the bigger counties are still only in the dozens of cases. And we're, medium-sized county. So I don't think our numbers are going to be huge. But again, we're just kind of shaving off some of the cases on the edges with deflection or drug court or restorative justice. And this is another one of those programs. So still optimistic about it, and we'll see how it plays out.
Ryan, do you see a point? I know at one point we were talking about, do you broaden sort of the criteria in relation? I know we're still kind of in those early stages, but do you see an opportunity maybe in the next year or so to reevaluate that sort of who becomes eligible and what crimes?
Yeah, I do. I think we're always gonna need a unclassified possession of controlled substance charge, but the question would be what additional charges might be allowed in and or the person's criminal history, what would be a disqualifying factor. One of the disqualifying factors is a history of violent crimes. To the real concern, I think, is we don't want to present a safety issue for the deflection people that are working with these clients, these individuals. So if we could somehow decide how to define whether this is a violent individual or not, because some people could have they could have an assault from 17 years ago when they were in college and now they're, they've still got challenges obviously because they're in the criminal justice system, but they don't have a violent or recent violent history. So we might look to, more recent, whether there's more recent crimes or maybe collectively as a group make a determination based on a number of criteria, whether that should be a disqualifying factor. That to me, that makes sense. The other disqualifying factor we have is a county, they've got to reside within the county. I had the thought though, that we kind of with drug court, we've often we have somebody that's from Lynn County, but they committed the crime here and Lynn County's got a drug court. So we kind of trade people. So that's a possibility as well. If a person's cited here, but they're residing in probably a place that's got a program comparable to ours. Lynn County doesn't, they've got quite a different approach, but but if we had something that was comparable to me, that we basically just want the person to get into some form of treatment and it's not hugely demanding. We're looking at 60 days of continuous engaged treatment. If we can get that in another county, I'm open to that. So yes,
Yeah.
to answer your
That's
question.
great.
Yeah. Any questions on either of those 2 points before I move on? This point C there, I guess is maybe just to give a heads up to law enforcement before. We're continuously looking to see how we can improve our systems in this. Yeah, I'm still the new DA, I guess. I can still claim that title for another year or so before I become the guy that's been here forever. But yeah. So always looking at how can we do things better? So what changes can we make to be more efficient? To save our office time, it's a save law enforcement time, and we have limited resources, limited time. What can we do better? And this, I guess I won't bore you with the details in this, but as I was brainstorming things to share, this is one that came up. But we have a process currently where when we investigate cases, we help the grand jury investigate cases. There's a process by which we can seek records. And the process currently requires the sheriff's office or any law enforcement agency to come to us, make the request, and then they rely on us to serve the subpoena to the individual. And then it comes back to us, and then the investigating officer has to keep bugging us over the next month or two to see if the documents have come in. And long story short, we've decided with the agencies to prepare that subpoena, but then turn it back over to law enforcement, let them serve their own subpoenas. Because they think they've asked to be able to do that. So maybe you haven't, but you people have. So it's a much more efficient system. So I don't know, that's probably kind of over everybody's heads here, but that's just something we're doing to try to make things more efficient.
We always joked and think it was the Duke's talcum.
The Duke is done. Yeah. All right. Finally, Axon Media program, that is continuing to go well. One of the concerns I had when we implemented this was because it's a different system, and we came to the commission, as you may recall, several months back, asking to change our fee structure. The concern was, are we going to get the same? We're investing a substantial amount of money and paying for this program. Are we still going to be receiving the income, if we can call it that, as a part of the discovery fees to offset some of our costs, or at least to keep our head above water? And just touch base with our Corona Media Division supervisor this week, and it looks like things are going swimmingly. We're not, funding our program through this, but we're taking in, it looks a comparable revenue as to what we were before. And then I think I had shared some concerns about the possibility that the governor or legislature was going to take away our ability to bill for that cost altogether. I don't want to jinx myself now, but I haven't heard any more about that. And I think it's still going forward. So we'll still receive that income. So hopefully that will continue to be the case. But again, we're appreciating, I think, an efficiency around the implementation of that program. At first, when we first jumped into it, because there's a steep learning curve, it actually initially was more work for our folks, and we kind of got backlogged for a bit, but they've dug in and done really well. And so it's questions, comments.
Caseload is manageable.
Yeah, we're doing all right. We're doing all right. I think we've again got two new attorneys coming in. So with that, we've got a certain existing caseload, and everybody, our deputies get to shave off a certain percentage of the cases and hand them over to the new guy or gal. So we're doing all right.
So the two new hires are proceeding through the process and looking promising.
Yeah, one of them is brand new, so she's just coming from Lane County Circuit Court as a clerk, so she has no experience at all. So there'll be a learning curve for her. She won't get a full implement of cases right off the bat. The other individual is an experienced prosecutor from another county. He's got about 5 years experience, so he'll be able to hit the ground running. Won't take as much. There's always differences amongst the different DA's offices and how things are done. So there'll be things to teach. But be in a better spot to jump in and take on a full case.
Good.
Right?
Or comments, questions? Nope. Right.
I hope the record captures the Duke's talcum.
Dukes, it was Duke's talcum. We used to make Duke's talcum up for each other. There's your Dukes, anyway.
On that note, is there anything else for the good of the order?
See you next Wednesday.
See you next week.
All right, well, with that, we will adjourn.
5:00.
5 AM?
No,
No.
for softball.
Oh.
You know, 5 in the evening at Goss Stadium. Who's playing? We're playing Lynn County.
The sheriff, Lynn
Mhm.
County Sheriff,
It's a good game.
It's a 1 hour game and then they'll kick us off and then everybody likes to stick around and watch the Knights play, but of course it's also Benton County Fair. And I think last year
Yeah, go.
was Van Meter was performing. So we all had to leave the softball game and hustle over to the fairgrounds. This year,
performing at the talent show.
no, he's an artiste. And so this year he had his own stage at the Pendleton Whiskey Fest. So,
All right.
last week.
All right, well, with that, we can adjourn the meeting at 2:16 PM.
You have to